Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, retired Breen and Quezada. Mike Breen retired. Ron Matten and Dr. Quezada is retiring.
You're watching Basement Politics with my guy, Freddie Vasquez.
Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, retire Matten and Dr. Quezada. Let's talk about the removal of Ron Matten from the Yonkers Joint Schools Construction Board by Mr. Michael Breen. Also, Dr. Edwin Quezada, the Yonkers Public School Superintendent, retiring come this July. Let's talk about it. Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics on Filter. Buenas tardes. Today's Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. I want to talk about, Yonkers is perfect for a podcast like this. I mean, this podcast could not be possible without Yonkers being the city that it is. It really is. I mean, I'm hearing about Ron Matten being retired from the Yonkers Joint Schools Construction Board, and I'll tell you what that's all about. I'll get into that in a minute. And Dr. Quezada, Dr. Edwin Quezada, the Yonkers Public School Superintendent, announcing his retirement. His last day will be sometime in July. And I think I already know who will be succeeding Dr. Quezada, who his successor will be. I've been mentioning this for quite some time now, and I'll get into that. But first, let's talk about Ron Matten. Mike Breen, the feud continues between these two Republicans. What's going on there, guys? Supposed to be getting along. This just goes to show the deterioration of our political system. Republican and Democrats are all falling apart. Ron Matten. I like Ron. Ron Matten, if you don't know, ran for city council president against Lakeisha Collins Bellamy in the general election in 2021, doing a lot better than most people. And even Ron, I believe, thought he would do. Ron realized toward the end that he may be able to win this, and he started to pick up some steam, but it just wasn't in time. Lakeisha had the machine behind her, the Spano machine. And she went on to become, obviously, the city council president. But Ron Matten has not given up. He is very involved. And he's been involved for quite some time, actually. He joined the schools construction board back in 2018. He was appointed by Mr. Mike Breen, the councilman of the 5th District. And there's been some feud lately. And it all stems from the extension of the term limits. Mike Breen was supposed to be done. It was Ron Matten's time. He was next in line. But as it goes here in Yonkers, things change. So Ron Matten was upset. Mike Breen now is allowed to run again after they extended the term limits in a way that it's not okay. It took away the right of the people to make that decision. When we had once made it before, twice, in fact, we said no, keep the term limits at 2. They realized they cannot get the people to go along with the plan, so they put it to the council to decide. And the council, completely ignoring the will of the people, voted in favor of extending term limits. But one important vote was needed. That vote was Mike Breen. Mike Breen played the game. Some people say Patty. Some people say Steve Trevert. I like to think it's Patty or Steve. But who cares? Either way, Mike played the game. He wanted to squeeze the Spanos. And so, where he once was in favor of term limits, he then flip-flopped a la Tasha Diaz and went on the Yonkers Voice and said he was not in favor of extending term limits. He was in favor of term limits on the Yonkers Voice, but he had made references to wanting to eliminate term limits. But what was the sudden change? And that had to do with his feeling of neglect from the Spanos in his election campaign against Nader Sayegh. And I'll get into Nader in a little bit here. The Spanos were supporting Nader. They need to support Nader, but they also needed to support Mike Breen. And they knew that. Mike Breen was instrumental in getting the term limits extended. And so when Mike Breen went on the Yonkers Voice and said he was in favor of term limits, the president has term limits. Why shouldn't the mayor? The Spanos knew that they had to do something quick, and so they went and showed support. They told Mike Breen, listen, if you go in there and vote the way you want, you can have whatever you want. And so that was a great deal for Mike. He went along with the plan. Screw being an assemblyman. I didn't really want that. I just wanted to let the Spanos know, hey, I'm still here. Don't forget me, guys. Don't forget me. And now he has called upon a favor. And that favor may have been to get Ron Matten removed. And why would he want to do that? Well, Ron Matten has been wanting to retire Mike Breen since his fundraiser the other day over at the Wolves Den or something like that on the Tuckahoe and Yonkers border, where Ron Matten had a fundraiser that was attended by the who's who. So Ron Matten, the intelligent man that he is, posted a big banner right where everyone can see it on their way to the fundraiser. It read, "Retire Breen. Yonkers deserves better." And guess who saw it? Nick Spano. Nick Spano attended the fundraiser. He didn't stay very long. He smiled and waved. But that would not be the last of it from Nick Spano. Oh, no. And I'll get into that after I read this article by the Yonkers Ledger. Shout out to my man, Mark Paralisi. Folks, if you don't know about the Yonkers Ledger, this is the most official paper out here, okay? Screw the Yonkers Times, screw the Yonkers Voice, and I'm not trying to, I normally don't say things like that about the competition. I prefer to let my work speak for itself, but I'm not making money here. This is different. So screw those papers, right? If you want truth and honesty and you want someone who can write clearly and effectively, I recommend the Yonkers Ledger. And I have nothing to do with the Ledger. So this is just coming from my own truthful, honest opinion. Check out the Yonkers Ledger. Mark is doing a great job over there. And he has a lot of experience with this, from what I'm told. So he knows what he's doing. Ron Matten has been removed from the Yonkers Joint Schools Construction Board the week after he began publicly attacking City Council member Mike Breen. The Yonkers Joint Schools Construction Board is one of many voluntary boards and commissions in Yonkers. The board was established by New York State and has the authority to enter into contract for designs, construction, and management of Yonkers Public Schools construction projects. Its members are appointed by various officials, and these officials have the authority to remove their appointees. Ron Matten has served on this board since its inception in September 2018. At the time, the Republican Matten was appointed by fellow Republicans on the Yonkers City Council. This caucus consisted of John Rubo, who's a Democrat now, Anthony Moranti, and were led by Minority Leader Mike Breen. Matten's qualifications appear to be in order for this appointment. He has professional experience as a facilities manager in multiple local colleges and public school districts in multiple states, spanning over a decade. While continuing to serve on this voluntary board, Matten began to run for local political office. His biggest race was in 2021 for city council president. He lost to Lakeisha Collins Bellamy, but his intent to run again was clear. Mike Breen was first elected to represent the 5th District on the city council in 2011. With the exception of Breen's exit after he reached the end of his term limit, Matten with the expectation of Breen's exit after he reached the end of his term limit, Matten was poised to fill that seat. He was ready. right? Matten was doing what he was supposed to be doing, right? He wasn't ruffling feathers at first. However, things went sideways for Matten when Breen and his Democratic allies on this council, and make sure you hear that clearly. Things went sideways for Matten when Breen and his Democratic allies, not Republican, his Democratic allies on the council voted to extend term limits for themselves and Mayor Mike Spano. Matten, along with 11 other Yonkers voters, then sued the city over this change. A sign of change. While Matten still had the desire to run after a contentious debate over redistricting, Matten appeared to have passed the torch to another GOP candidate. Now, Ron is challenging Mike Breen in the Republican primary this year. But even with a different Ron in the race, Matten was not content to sit on the sidelines. He even went so far as to commission a banner expressing his discontent with his three-term council member. The words "Retire Breen" now adorn the side of Matten's pickup truck, a truck that he has been parking in front of fundraisers and other events where Breen is present. And he had the truck out the night of the State of the City address, where Nick Spano attended. In response, it seems this very public political statement, Breen has now removed Matten from his position on the Yonkers Joint Schools Construction Board. In a letter dated April 4th, I think it's actually April 3rd, 2023, and I'll show that letter in a minute, Breen informed Matten that his term had expired and that he would be replaced. Surprised by this news, Matten reviewed the laws governing this board and even spoke to certain legal experts on the matter. From his research, there is no set term for appointees to this board, so any doubt that this removal was standard procedure was eliminated. Matten then contacted Yonkers Corporation Counsel Matt Gallagher and subsequently received a new letter the next day. On April 5th, the amended letter made no mention on an expired term, but only that Matten was removed as the designee of the Yonkers City Council minority, the Republican minority led by political rival Mike Breen, who did not consult the rest of his caucus on this issue. For now, this matter is at an impasse. The city believes the removal of board appointees is simple and they can be removed without cause by their sponsor. And this has happened before. And I talked about this before. But Matten contends that this is not true. He seeks to remain on the board or to be provided with just cause for his removal. Whether a cause exists or will be manufactured may not ultimately matter. Ron has begun to swing hard at political foe Mike Breen, and now Breen, backed by the full power of the city government, appears to be swinging back. That was a great article there, Mark. Appreciate that. I definitely. Overt and immediate retaliation for constitutionally protected dissent. That's Yonkers for you. Breen told him, you want to play this game? You're going to lose it. That's right. So the sign read, "Retire Breen." Breen thought it'd be funny to retire Ron Matten from the construction board there. So was this retaliation? Did this have anything to do with the fact that Ron Matten is expressing his discontent, is being very vocal and critical of Mike Breen? He has done so not only with a sign at various events, but also at public hearings where he has spoken out against Mike Breen. If you pay attention to Yonkers politics and or have been at least following this podcast, you would know that it's probably more than likely that this is retaliation, that this was done because of Matten's comments, because of his criticism of Breen. And these people take it very personal. I mean, you would think being elected officials, public officials, they would have thicker skin, but they don't. And is that because they truly deep inside know that they are unqualified and lack the true skills and capabilities for the position that they sit in? And so any criticism gets their, insecurities going. And so they have to do things like this. They can't handle it, like big grown men and women. It's okay for you to voice your, displeasure with the way a council member or any elected official is doing at their job. And we know, God knows here in the city of Yonkers, that some of these officials are truly letting us down. They have done nothing for us. And in fact, a Facebook account has been created in regards to Mike Breen, and it's called The Laziest Council Member. And I have nothing to do with that. I have to be clear when I state that, right? So Ron, removed for criticizing Breen, right? That's crazy. Either way you look at it, the fact that Breen removed Matten, who Matten had been very critical about, and the comment made by Nick Spano, right? So the fact that Ron Matten was very critical of Breen, had the sign, spoke out against him, and the fact that Nick Spano saw it. Nick Spano saw the sign the day of the fundraiser. He was also probably aware of the sign the day of the city estate address. And I was told from someone, a viewer of Basement Politics, that they overheard Nick Spano telling Ron Matten that he had done a bad thing. That's right. Nick Spano going up to Ron Matten saying, you did a bad thing, implying, or referencing the banner that he had up at the fundraiser that day. So did Nick strike back? Was it Patty? Or did Mike Breen come up with this all by himself? It's up to you to decide. This is the letter that Ron Matten received here. This is the first one. Dear Mr. Matten. No, I'm sorry. This is not the first one. Let's go to the first one. This is April 3rd, 2023. Ronald Matten. Dear Mr. Matten, please be advised that your term as a member of the Yonkers Joint School Construction Board has concluded and that I have appointed a successor pursuant to Chapter 355 of the 2016 Laws of New York. I want to thank you for your years of service to the Yonkers Joint School Construction Board, where you serve with loyalty, professionalism, and distinction. And by the way, folks, that's not a toilet being flushed. That's actually a sub pump. I apologize for that. So that's the first letter there. And it makes reference to a term. Please be advised that your term as a member of the Yonkers Joint School Construction Board has concluded. And he references Chapter 355 of the 2016 Laws of New York. And Ron, again, is a smart man. So he's going to go and he's going to read this law or these laws. And he realizes that there is no term limit. I mean, he's been on there since 2018. Now there's a term limit. So after he made the city aware of this, Matt Gallagher specifically, he received a letter. Another one. Dear Mr. Matten, please be advised that pursuant to Chapter 355 of the 2016 Laws of New York, known as the Yonkers City School District Joint Schools Construction and Modernization Act, you are hereby removed as a designee of the Yonkers City Council minority to serve as a member of the Yonkers Joint Schools Construction Board effective immediately. A successor designee has been appointed to replace you in accordance with the act. I want to thank you for your years of service on the Yonkers Joint Schools Construction Board, where you served with loyalty, professionalism, and distinction. Mike Breen. So I would imagine that the first letter was written by Breen, and then the second one was written by Matt Gallagher once Ron Matten said something about it. And they had to make sure that they, clean it up. And so this is how Ron Matten responds. Matt, thank you for delivering the correspondence. While that act makes reference to appointing and removal, it does not provide the minority leader with the authority to remove. There is also a qualification that appointees are remaining members of the board shall be independent members. Except for the mayor of Yonkers, the president of the Yonkers Board of Education, and the superintendent of the city school district, the remaining members of the board shall be independent members. The official or officials having the authority to appoint or remove such remaining members shall take such actions as may be necessary to satisfy this requirement, and further shall consider the prospective diversity of the members of the board when making their determinations to appoint any member. I still contend that I can only be removed for cause, and Minority Leader Breen has the authority to appoint, not remove. As you know, I have publicly supported Mike Breen's primary opponent. Breen is demonstrating that my appointment, is in fact not independent, and therefore this removal is politically motivated. Please take this notice as my intent to challenge this fallacious removal, and I will be following up with formal action as Minority Leader Breen does not have the authority to remove an appointee without cause. Thank you for your time, and I understand that you are the messenger. And so you read that last line is kind of, Ron Matten's way of saying, I know you're just a messenger, Matt Gallagher. You're just doing your job. This is coming from up above. And so he's out. Ron Matten's very qualified, and I've spoke about this, in prior podcasts. Appointing unqualified people to boards and even, city positions, city paid positions, right? Many people are unqualified. The nepotism system, and if you look at a lot of our committees and boards, you see the same people that have been involved in this circle for years, the same people that go to the events, the fundraisers, the same people that Tasha Diaz gives awards to. Same individuals, the ones that will do as told. Those that have an independent mind don't last very long. And so there you have it. Ron Matten, probably the most qualified or one of the most qualified guys on that board, is removed. Same as the zoning board. When they removed Jeffrey Landsman and a guy named Vincent Giorgio or something like that, they removed them because they were qualified, experienced, knowledgeable, and they understood that many of the zoning changes that they were trying to get passed or trying to get approved on behalf of developers who are clients of the mayor's brother were not good for the city, were not good for the people in the communities that they were trying to develop these buildings in. And because they would not approve every zoning law change, they were removed. They were replaced without being officially notified. They received a letter 3 months later, but they realized they were removed because they watched appointments of new individuals to the zoning board, inexperienced individuals, like a 20-something-year-old son of one of these real estate investors here. The one that owns 470 Nepperhan Avenue, that has the big sign on it that says, for lease, call Rand Realty, the realty company owned by Paul Adler, the guy that was arrested, became a felon from Rockland County, that is connected with Nick Spano. They do business together as realtors. They are not only, getting these consultant fees, but Nick Spano is also a realtor. So he is the real estate agent on many of these transactions between developers and city and other property owners. They represent both the seller and the buyer in these transactions. They are making so much money. So they replace these individuals who are experienced with this guy's son. And other individuals like Hector Lopez. How much experience does he have in zoning? And I believe Hector Lopez may also be on this school construction board. Let's take a look at this. It's important to know this stuff. Based on, let me see, am I on the right page? I'm sorry, I had a list. 14 first. In 2016, the New York State Legislature adopted Chapter 355 of the laws of 2016, known as the Yonkers City School District Joint Schools Construction and Modernization Act. The act authorized the city of Yonkers and the Yonkers City School District to create the Yonkers Joint Schools Construction Board and granted certain powers to this board. Under the act, the board is charged with, among other things, management, oversight of the Yonkers City School District Joint Schools Construction and Modernization Act, and preparation and implementation of a plan for renovations of the city's educational facilities, as well as development of up to 3 new schools that are envisioned in Yonkers Public Schools educational facilities. This modernization plan is intended to present the basis for enhanced funding provided by legislation outlined the scope of specific projects in phase 1. Right? The purpose of the special legislation is to provide the city of Yonkers and the Yonkers Public Schools with increased flexibility in financing educational facilities improvements to meet the needs of its students' population. The state previously adopted legislation similar to the act to assist other large city school districts in New York State that experience shortages in funding for education. The Yonkers School District is the 4th largest and now the 3rd, or maybe the 4th largest district in New York State and the 2nd largest employer in Westchester County. Wow, 2nd largest employer in Westchester County. And so we may be the third largest city, but we are the fourth largest school district. Buffalo, the one that they always compare themselves to, is bigger, which is why they receive more money. The construction board and the city entered into a cooperative agreement dated as of March 10, 2020 to clarify the agency arrangement and delegation of authority among the city and the board, as well as their respective obligations and expectations to achieve the objectives of the act. Pursuant to the Phase 1 plan, the board proposes the design and construction of new buildings and projects at all of the 39 city school buildings, encompassing needed reconstruction or rehabilitation of existing school buildings for their continued use by the school district, collectively the Phase 1 projects. However, as noted above, at this construction is limited to Phase 1A, new school at the St. Denis site, which is where yesterday the mayor, Dr. Quezada, you saw Reverend Lopez, they were there doing a groundbreaking ceremony over at that new school. Pursuant to the terms of that certain intermunicipal agreement, the IMA, by and between the Yonkers Public Schools, acting through its BOE in the city as filed in the office of the city clerk, the city assumes certain BOE functions, including without limitation finance, pretty much. Furthermore, in July 2019, the Board of Education Trustees adopted a 2019 EFP, which forms the basis for the board Phase 1 plan. As required pursuant to the act, the board and the BOE trustees jointly held 2 public hearings. Did anyone attend that? On Phase 1 plan. Furthermore, pursuant to Special Ordinance 14 and 43, 2019, the City Council approved the funding of $6 million to finance acquisition of the St. Denis site. So it cost the city just $6 million. So the School Joint Construction Board is made up of Mayor Mike Spano, Reverend Steve Lopez, President of the Yonkers Board of Education, Dr. Edwin M. Quezada, Superintendent of Schools, Robert Rijos, President of Yonkers Council of PTAs. Unbelievable. Miguel Cuevas, Yonkers City Council appointee, Miguel Cuevas, I'm not sure what that is. Ronald Matten, and that may be eliminated. Yonkers City Council appointee, Pastor James Hassel, Kingdom Christian Cultural Center of Yonkers. Stephen Frey, retired Yonkers teacher and former president, Yonkers Federation of Teachers, and Honorable Andrew Spano, former Westchester County executive. City of Yonkers, James Cavanaugh, deputy mayor. Not the deputy mayor anymore. Now he's the president of the Yonkers Industrial Development Agency. Lou Albano, deputy commissioner, planning and development. He is now the commissioner. Karen Ramos, deputy commissioner, law department. I forgot what she was actually recently changed to. John Lizwiski, commissioner, finance department. Elizabeth Janaka, deputy commissioner, finance department. So those are the individuals that are involved with the board. So we know, and this is important again. Yonkers Public School facilities faces critical issues involving both their capacity and condition. The schools are overcrowded, resulting in a shortage of between 2,300 and 4,400 seats. A new public school has not been constructed in Yonkers in the last 20 years. During that time, enrollment has grown, increasing to a total of approximately 25,000 students. The schools are on average 80 years old. They are likely the oldest schools in New York State and perhaps the entire country. The entire country. That's unbelievable. 8 of the elementary schools are over 100 years old, with the oldest having been in continuous service for 125 years. Available funding has been strategically prioritized to keep school facilities in service, but they are far from up to date from a physical condition perspective and as adequate educational environments to facilitate learning in the 21st century. The primary goal of this comprehensive joint schools construction and modernization plan is to secure access to funding to build a new school on the site of the defunct St. Denis parochial school located in Southwest Yonkers. This plan will also provide a path to obtaining funding to build up to 2 additional schools if the city's able to fund the local share of those projects. And the local shares are roughly between $22 to $25 million. That's the city's share. Now, the school that's going up on McLean, where they did the groundbreaking, it was about $80 million. Then they went back to ask for more money, it's pushing $100 million. The city of Yonkers is only responsible for about $25 million of that. That's it. The rest is paid through other funding, issuing debt, state, So the city has to come up with the bulk of it, but they can't come up with the additional funds for the second and third school as of now. So that's where we stand. This plan also provides a path. Additionally, this plan includes some of the highest priority infrastructure repairs on many of the city schools. While these repairs and upgrades are included in the plan, they may be funded through Yonkers Public Schools' regular capital improvement program, not the Yonkers City School District. So, that's important. You see how old these schools are. Our kids are, entering buildings that are, 100 years old. I can only imagine, what's going on there in terms of lead, asbestos, and those pipes and stuff. It's pretty bad, the infrastructure. And it's been 12 years. And so now we're saying, okay, we give you guys another 4 years because now you're going to do it. That doesn't make sense. What happened in the first 12 years? The city is carrying $3 billion of debt. They have to pay that down. This past year, they were able to add $200 million to pay it down, but that only brought it to $2.94 billion. And that is why they cannot fund these projects. That is why our kids are cheated out of so much. The legislation stipulates that the construction and modernization plan shall include a number of elements. Estimate of total cost to be financed not to exceed $523 million, plus certain additional amounts stipulated. Financing plan, including identifying parties to be involved in financing. District-wide technology plan. Identification of the buildings to be constructed or reconstructed. Project cost estimates and schedule for completion. Proposed amendments to the district's capital facility plans. Diversity plan, including community input, program manager, and all that good stuff. And I have posted this, so if you want to read this in detail, you can. It's on the page. If you want to go ahead and do that, be my guest. Right. Based on the thorough review of the building conditions, the current status of the Yonkers Public School 5-year plan projects, a comprehensive list was created of projects at all of the 39 city school buildings for 3 new school buildings. Since available funds cannot meet all the modernization needs of the city school buildings, the identified renovation projects are prioritized at 31 individual sites. 1 new school is designed for phase 1. This plan identifies the projects that in total would not exceed $523 million in phase 1 based on calculated maximum cost allowance, or in the case of the new school buildings, twice the MCA, to which state building aid is then applied. And so, I don't want to go into it again. I'll have it up there. You can check that out in more detail if you want to take a look at it. I'll just skim through this real quick just to give you an idea of some of the things that they're talking about here. School 10, located on the southwest side, over there off Riverdale. That needs, and that's a very small school, that needs a total of $500,000 in repairs. And it was built in 1972. That's probably one of the newer schools. School 13, they need $62 million. $62 million. It was built in 1920 in an elementary school that now houses a 4-section pre-K 8 through 8 program. Wow. They need to make it ADA compliant. They need necessary infrastructure upgrades include all major building systems, ventilation, lighting, ADA accessibility, and envelope restoration. A new gymnasium addition and several small classroom additions are proposed. What school does your child attend? School 14, they need $89 million of total renovation. Built in 1902. Again, they have the same issues. School 16, that's where I graduated from. $104 million. Built in 1902 as well. Upgrades include a HVAC system, ventilation, lighting, ADA accessibility, right? So our kids are in school, cold classrooms. In the summertime, they're hot. They can't breathe. School 17, $22 million. Look at all this. And again, Scholastic Academy. Go on there, go to the page, check it out. See what school does your child go to and what does that school need? What is your child? What condition is the school building that your child attends? They're not going to do all these renovations. They can't. They don't have the money. The school that they're building now, the reason why they did that is because we're coming on an election year. It looks great. You have to see the game that's being played. Think about every election year. They, start going crazy, doing all these things, right? But will that it be all? Once the election is over, that's it. School hopefully will be completed, and then we'll rock and roll another 4 years with nothing. Why aren't the developers paying for some of these buildings? Part of, you wanting to do business in New York, and you're not hiring the local force, labor force, and you're causing the cost of living to go up for the entire city. You're using all our water, causing the water bill to go up for everyone here in the city because we're not paying for that extra cost, so we're passing it down. You could at least modernize some of these schools for us while you're at it, right? But they say, oh, but they're gonna go ahead and restore a park, which is great, I guess. But we need schools. We need to assure that our kids are going to a school where the roof is not falling on their head, which is a comment made by Sinead Williams at a meeting once. I said, really? Actually, it was an interview. She said this in an interview. The roof is falling on our kids' heads? That's dangerous. Wilford Brimley had to retaliate hard and fast. If mob life is far better to be perceived as wrong than to be perceived as weak. If he had done nothing. And you're talking about the Ron Matten thing. Yeah, that's how they do it here. So our kids suffer. Ultimately, our kids suffer. They don't have the money to bring our school district up to par. These renovations and the cost, your kids will be graduated. If they're in elementary school now, they'll be graduated before we see this complete, if it's ever going to be completed. And so our kids will continue to suffer. Programs will continue to be cut while individuals who work for the city continue to steal hours, steal time. No one's supervising or managing that. People are retiring with hundreds of hours being paid for when they leave that they did not earn. Millions of taxpayer dollars being wasted just by city employees, adding time, stealing time, all the departments. And then you have these developers getting the huge tax breaks, less money coming in. Yet they're adding a lot of strain to the overall infrastructure. They're increasing the expenses of the city, bringing in more people, right? We need to hire more police now. More firemen, train them properly to put fires out in these high rises that they're building as they go higher and higher. That costs the city more money. And where's that money going to come from? In 2022, the city spent less on education and public safety than it did in 2021. So while the city was able to be in a net position at the end of the fiscal cycle in June, up $200 million, that was applied to a $3 billion debt. So really, it was no gain. So where will the city get the money? So it's important that whoever becomes the next mayor goes in there. If it's not Mike Spano again, obviously, I don't think anything will change. But a new mayor must go in there and trim the fat. Find the wasteful spending. That wasteful spending can be applied to renovating our schools, right? They weren't using the money anyway. It was going into people's pockets. Let's stop it. Let's collect it, and let's apply it to the schools so our kids can have something, at least some bats, so we can have a squad, right? So take a look at it. It's important that you know that. I also have here section 355, powers and duties of trustees here. I definitely believe it's retaliation, 1,000%. I mean, and it's coming from Mike Breen. It's a way of him getting back, right? He's getting him back. So that's definitely what I believe what it is. And so Ron Matten has a lot of, experience. He's a facilities manager. Who else on there has the skill and talent and intellectual capability as Ron Matten? And I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm just saying who the combination meaning, right? Other guys may be smart, but they may not know about facilities management and all the logistics that go with what Ron knows, right? And building a school and how to, all that's, I don't know what it is. That's not who I do, right? But he does. But now he's out. And so again, we suffer. Unqualified people. They're the ones making the decision. Well, not really. They're just being told what to say, right? And they're doing what they're told. So I just wanted to point that out. Again, that's more retaliation. I'm going to continue to show it. I'm going to give you examples of it. This is important for people to know, understand why we are in the position we're in, why the city's always broke. This is why. Look at all the renovations our schools need. Take a look at that. Go through all the schools. See how old they are. See what's wrong with them. See what the total cost is to renovate them. Do you think we'll be able to afford that? So, that's the problem for me. Anyway, also, Dr. Quezada, speaking of the schools, is retiring. That's Dr. Quezada with Mayor Mike Spano there at the groundbreaking for the new school on McLean. They made an announcement, the city of Yonkers, that he will retire. Dr. Quezada, was someone that people have always said good things about to me. I didn't hear anything negative. Nothing that I felt was his fault directly. And now, listen, I'm not saying that, I know it all. And I think everything he did was, I don't know. I'm just saying from what I've heard, from what I know, Dr. Quezada was a good guy. He was doing his best. But we all know that you are limited in what you can do in your capacity, because ultimately, this is a strong mayor government. The administration is in charge of every department. The department heads, they're just there. They're the face, and they do as they're told. When they go in front of the city council during budget season, they are told how to prepare that budget if it's not already prepared for them. That whole issue back in 2014, when the city, for whatever reason, included $55 million into their budget that was not approved by the state, but yet they moved forward as if it were. And then all of a sudden, there was this $55 million deficit that nobody knew where it came from. And then they figured it out, and it had to do with money that was, they counted their chickens before the eggs hatched, wasn't approved. People were fired. There was an IMA, intermunicipal agreement, agency agreement, where the city of Yonkers took over management of finances for the school district. And so now they have a combined budget, and that's why you see $1.2, $1.4 billion budget. That's city budget, school district budget, managed by the mayor and the administration. They call the shots. When you write the checks, you call the shots. That's just how it is. And so they do what they are told. They'll give their input. They'll give recommendations, suggestions, but ultimately, what the administration has in mind, what their goal and agenda is what will happen. And so I want to make that very clear, because I saw this coming. I saw this coming when I started to see negative articles about Dr. Quezada in the Yonkers Tribune, Yonkers Wire, Yonkers Voice, because they will put out whatever they're told to put out. Yonkers Time, Mr. Dan Murphy, who himself said that he is willing to put out false information knowingly if that is what he has to do. And he calls himself a journalist. And so to me, that makes it worse, Dan, if you knowingly put out false information. That makes it worse. And so they were attacking Quezada, and I defended Quezada because I heard nothing but good things about Quezada. From students, not just adults, from students, from young people who had him as either a teacher, as a principal, or as a superintendent. I was just recently told of a story the other day of how he helped a child, or a student, who was a child at the time, graduate when they were going to expel him for, something that was a mistake. Had a knife in his pocket, didn't realize a little blade. Listen, when you grow up in the streets, you tend to carry a little blade because it can be tough and rough. But he was not, intending on bringing a weapon. Trust me, did not want to, jeopardize his chances of graduating. And Quezada stepped in and, made a decision where the young man was able to graduate, and the young man's doing very, very well today. So I hear these stories about Dr. Quezada. And so I'm not saying that this decision is not his own, but when you have these negative articles coming out about you, and you know where it's coming from, it's on the Yonkers Tribune, it's on the Yonkers Times, you see the writing on the wall. And why? Do they dislike Quezada? I don't think they dislike Quezada. I think that they need the position. You can be in it for a while until it's time for us to give it to someone else who has done a favor for us. And so again, when I saw the attacks on Quezada, I knew that they wanted him out so they can replace him with Nader Sage. Nader Sage has been wanting the position of superintendent. It's a $270,000 a year position. You don't have to travel all the way up to Albany anymore, Nader. And he feels he has the qualifications, although I'm not sure when was the last time he was in education. But he is an educator. But Nader Sage also was the head of the school board of trustees. He was the president of the school board of trustees back in 2014 when the whole financial issue happened. While other people were fired for this mishap, Nader Sage remained as the school board of trustees president. He should have been the first one to be removed or given a letter like Ron Matten was. But he continued to advance. And so that told me that that whole thing was a setup in order to do exactly what they did, which was get the school budget under the control of the mayor. That was a play. It was a play. It was a move. They knew exactly what they were doing. And so that's what happened. So Nader was a part of that plan. And now Nader Sage is helping the mayors, the administration, with this campaign. Nader Sage wanted to be mayor, and they knew that. Nader had the numbers. Nader could have given Mike Spano a run for his money. And he wanted the mayor's position. And they knew that, and they knew that he could give them a run for their money. And so they made a deal. That's in my strong opinion. They made a deal. We need this 4 more years. You hang back. You'll become superintendent, $274,000 a year. You don't have to drive up to Albany anymore. Or you can try to become mayor. We can go at it. And we'll see what happens. And so that's what the deal is. And so now Nader was able to get his voter base to support the mayor. And that's what's going to happen. His voters will go and vote for Mayor Spano. He has to. That's how he's going to get appointed. I thought Senator Mayer put in safeguards so that particular board cannot be corrupted. I believe there was supposed to be no employees or any nepotism on that board. Breen just made it political. I hope Ron fights for our kids. Absolutely. And this is why it's important that this information is put out there, because this is our kids that are affected. We are impacted by this, whether you know it or not, whether directly or indirectly. You are impacted by these decisions that are happening behind the scenes. When you get unqualified people, you get poor results. When you get people who are compromised and who are willing to be corrupted, you get poor results. And we've been seeing poor results for the most part. We have. I mean, where is the, improvement? If you say, hey, the buildings, okay, got nicer, taller buildings. You got a bunch of people from the city now. They love it. They're bringing all of their stuff with them, aren't they? I mean, downtown Yonkers is, I don't know, what's all this stuff that's coming out here. Some of it, it's not okay to me. And a lot of you folks, it's not okay to you. Now you know, guys, what I'm talking about. Not sure what's up with this. But it changes because you're getting a lot of city folks. City is melting pot. You get all kinds of things that is coming into Yonkers. And so they love it. The people who don't come to the downtown area think it's great because they assume that, well, the buildings are making it better. There's no crime, right? They never go over there because there are actually people that live in Yonkers that don't go to downtown at all. I knew one lady who said her husband would kill her if he found out that she was on that side of town, right? Although she grew up on that side, but hadn't been back for a long time. So that's it. That's it. This is great. I'm glad we're getting another school, but it's been 12 years. And so you can't say, like, wow, they're doing an amazing job because look what they're doing now. Of course, this is election year. They should have been doing this. And had they done this from get-go, we could be at our third school now, right? Or have them all three completed. But now they're moving. Now they're working. And so you have to see the hustle. You have to see that game that's being played. And don't be gamed, folks. Don't be gamed by these politicians. And that's the thing about politics. You know, lately I've been working on expanding my company. Been having meetings with my partners and training guys. We're hiring new guys, training them. I'm hiring office staff, as I mentioned. So I've been kind of really, immersed in that. And honestly, I like it. I like to be in that space. It's business, it's competition, but it has there's more integrity. There's more honesty. There's more loyalty than politics. And it's healthier. I'm like, I like this. We know where we stand. We have truthful conversations. I met my partners. This is the deal. How we talk about finances and how we do that, right? So, but we're honest and we mean what we say. But in politics, it's very much different than that. Everybody's making deals. You think one person is one way, they make a deal behind the scene. And that's happening even now. And when people who put themselves or present themselves like individuals that are out to help the community, but then do backroom deals to benefit themselves, you're not really out for the community. I mean, the fact that you're not really out there should say that, but that proves it, that you're making these backroom deals. You're not doing what's in the best interest of the community. You're doing what's in the best interest of yourself. And that's what we see a lot here in the city of Yonkers. And that's why people look at Freddie when I talk about something, they're just like, yo, you're messed up. How can you? Because you don't know some of the things that they do behind the scenes, the deals that they've made. Right? So if someone says to me, Freddie, why would you go and go that song to me? What you was talking, and I didn't say anything really bad about Corazon, but why would Corazon go to the caterers and ask for support? Right? I think what she did is worse to the caterers, yet she went to ask for support. You fed them to the wolves, Corazon. Look at what Mike Cater and his family are going through. You were a part of that. So is Impact supporting Corazon? It's a possibility. It's a possibility. Because ultimately people want to see Mike Spano out by any means necessary. But we have an opportunity to really put this, we had an opportunity to really put this together and do it for the people. But again, everyone has their own agenda. And so for me, I like talking about politics. I like breaking it down. But my wife even said today, Freddie, I don't know if you're the politician type. You're just too blunt. You say what what's on your mind. You're too honest. Maybe that doesn't always work. Maybe. She goes, how are you going to get things done if people don't want to work with you? I said, I will go to their office and I will let them know we need to get this done for the people. You want to have issues or not? Let's get it done for the people. Right? And if they don't, we expose them. Hey, listen, your council member here is refusing to work with me. This is what we want to do. Maybe you ought to think about voting for someone else next election. I'll just say that. I'm not going to play but you got to do this and you got to play nice for now. Maybe something I don't want nothing. And I want just people to be honest. Be straight up. I don't want to play these games because ultimately I will see it. Right? And you'll just expose yourself, right? So don't be a liar. Be honest and do the right thing. Don't do the thing for you and yourself. Do the right thing. Right? And so a lot of deals are being made. So we'll see, right? It's like what Keisha Skipper, right? When she, gave her support to Lakeisha Collins Bellamy instead of Mike Cater when she initially was supporting Cater. Because there was a deal made. There was deals made, right? And then look where we at now. I mean, she was one of the few people that were thanked by Lakeisha Collins Bellamy. That was a great, group to be in, Keisha. Zahi Jerris, Wilson Kimball, Vinny Spano. She said she owed them. She was forever indebted to them. And then she goes and extends the term limits. And she approves all these zoning changes that are impacting Black people. But there was supposed to be a prize at the end, and it didn't work out that way. It didn't pan out that way, so I don't play that game with people. Okay. Because in the end, it's not going to pan out that way. This is politics after all. And it didn't pan out that way, right? And so here we are. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered, where I give it to you raw, and I'm honest, and I tell you what's the real. You want to know what's the real? You come here. I will tell you exactly what's going on. That's what's going on. So have a beautiful rest of the night. I'm up out of here. Thank you for joining me. See you later. Sayonara. Peace out. We'll see what happens. God is in control ultimately.
Ready.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez. You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
I am Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Thank you for watching.
Ready wins. Fatality.
Ron. You got to get him back, Ron. What's the plan? What's the plan, Ron? It's time for payback. So thank you, Dr. Quezada, for all your service and for all you have done. I mean, from what I've gathered, the consensus is that you are a good guy. You've done a lot of great things for a lot of people. You've touched a lot of students. And people appreciate what you have done. So thank you for serving the city of Yonkers and the students, the faculty, staff, teachers, and administrators. Everyone has said nice things about you, including my wife. She does appreciate Dr. Quezada. So thank you very much. If we do get Nader, you will definitely be missed. You will be missed regardless.
Ready wins. Fatality.
In another one, Mr. Rumo lied to me. And I don't vote for a person that lied to me. Thank you very much.
I want to end this quick because I'm greedy and I want somebody to want a chicken. So thank
Tasha, can we get a... Oh, Tasha, we want our money back. The taxpayers have written and have spoken, and they want their tax money back from that awards ceremony that you did. All right, we want our money back. Okay, as a representative of tax-paying people, we want our money back. We didn't even get an invite.
I want to end this quick because I'm greedy and I want somebody to want a chicken. So thank you. I want to end this
Ready
quick.
wins. Fatality. Ready wins. Fatality.
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddie Vasquez.
Ready wins. Fatality.
No!